everyone, it's Shane Conto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. And no, this is not my normal voice. Doing our best here this month with this recording. And this is my weekly show where my guests and I each pick a film related in some shape or form. And hopefully by the end of this episode, you have two movies to go check out. And joining me, as always, the fourth Thursday of the month, it's Jeff. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we're going to be talking about a double dose of early aughts, strangely sci-fi types of dramas with some interesting twists, and that is Donnie Darko and the Butterfly Effect. So let's dive in first into Donnie Darko from director Richard Kelly, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, and honestly, a bunch of young up and coming actors and some familiar faces as well. After narrowly escaping a bizarre accident, a troubled teenager is plagued by visions of a man in a large rabbit suit who manipulates him to commit a series of crimes. But Jeff, what are your general thoughts on Donnie Darko?
So I this is going to be another episode of movies that Jeff liked when he first watched it, and then when he watched it again later in life, realized he didn't like it as much as he thought he did. Because I watched this, I don't think I've watched it in maybe 10 years. And when I watched it, I just didn't really dig it this time around. And so I'm not sure why, because it is very well done. The music is very good. I I just kind of got to the ending that I originally loved, and I was just like, oh, I don't know. I just thought that was gonna hit me a little differently.
It's interesting because this is one of those films that there's certainly a segment of people where like Donnie Darko is like their favorite movie. And it hits a very specific kind of, you know, angsty kind of
Hmm.
feeling to it. And I think some of the things that really stand out to me, there's some really effective and very haunting needle drops in this. Like
Yeah.
that whole entire sequence at the end of the film,
Hmm.
as we're kind of like peering into the lives of all of these characters. Um, it's very haunting. And I think Richard Kelly understands how to craft atmosphere. And whenever we see these visions that Donnie's having, they're really uncomfortable and unnerving.
Hmm.
I do feel like it's one of those types of things where it's like a teenage boy or like like young college guy, like it's that philosophy of this with like wormholes and all of this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And I feel like it's would be like mind blowing at that point watching this. And I do think it's very interesting how this all plays out. But, I've always appreciated this film, I think, more than I've loved it. I've watched it a few times at this point. I think Jake Gyllenhaal definitely shows a lot of promise for a young
Hmm.
actor, seeing as, this is like Bubble Boy era
Yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal. And, you have some strong performances from like Jenna Malone. I think Drew Barrymore delivers a very interesting kind of performance. Um, Really weird Patrick Swayze in
Hmm.
this, especially in the role that he's in. But there's certainly a lot of interesting things about it.
Yeah. And then that's one thing that you mentioned, Patrick Swayze. I didn't even remember that it was him until like halfway through the movie. I was like, oh, right, he's in this, and that's probably him. Because like to me, he just doesn't look like what I thought Patrick Swayze looked like at that point in like life. So I was very confused by that. But then it is one of those movies that made me think a lot when I first watched it because I was like so entranced with like the idea of the time travel aspect and how that came to be. But as I got kind of further on, like towards the end of the film, I kind of felt confused by it. I was like, I don't understand how that like the time travel aspect worked exactly. Like how did he, spoilers, I guess, but how did he go back in time?
And it's a lot of throwing a bunch of wormhole
Hmm.
types of sci-fi elements into this movie. And it's very interesting watching this film because you can tell like they didn't have a big budget for this.
No.
And it's very unexpected to see how like sci-fi heavy this turns out to be.
Hmm.
Um, the really eerie, strange sequences of seeing like those like anchors like coming out of people's bodies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And as like the movie theater sequence is really creepy and haunting.
Hmm.
And it honestly gets pretty shocking towards the end. Like there's a string of events that happen towards the end that are just like, holy crap. Like
Hmm.
this movie's like people aren't making this out of this movie alive, which is
Yeah.
kind of wild because this is just, a movie about a weird teenager who may or may not have mental health issues or, wormholes exist in a place where you can use them to like time travel and stuff like that. Just in a casual neighborhood. I feel like I think Richard Kelly had a lot of big ideas with this. And it's very interesting because I don't think he really did much of note besides this movie, to be honest.
No,
And
I don't think he has either. Um, I was trying to remember. I think I was watching or I was listening to like Sincast like years ago, and they had him on talking about the movies he's done and stuff. But yeah, he really hasn't done all that much.
it looks like he had Southland Tales that he directed a couple years after this,
Hmm.
and then The Box, and hasn't directed anything since. It's certainly he certainly creates atmosphere and tone really well,
Yeah.
for sure. And I think they get some strong performances out of some of these younger actors. It's really weird seeing like some of the actors randomly popping up here, and then you have certain character actors like Beth Grant, who's like the health and PE teacher at the high school, which
Hmm.
she plays hateable characters so darn well and stuff. And then like Mary McDonald, who plays Donnie's mother, I think does a really fine job of conveying this conflict and this fear for her son throughout this film. And, you know, there's a couple of lines that really make me laugh, but I think that probably will make me laugh because they're so cringy. Like some of the banter between him and his sister, which is also really funny that it's Maggie Gyllenhaal, his actual sister. So,
Right.
but I guess, Jeff, can you do you feel like you can pinpoint what just didn't click this time around?
I think I think it was kind of some of the sci-fi aspects that
Hmm.
just didn't quite work for me this time around. Because like I said, like we have like these sequences with with Jake Gyllenhaal and Noah Wiley, who I've also forgot was in this film, um, where they're kind of talking about the concepts of wormholes and time travel and all in Einstein Rosen bridge and all that stuff. And like that's kind of the stuff I was kind of hoping it would dig into just a little bit more. Um, but then as it kind of got towards the end and we see like this like, end of the world sort of happening in this film, like I don't know if I quite understand like how like the everything goes back in time and Donnie ends up, you know, happening, what happens to him actually happens to him. I just don't
Yeah,
understand how that happens. Because if he does, let's say he does go back in time and he knows what's about to happen, wouldn't he still have avoided it? Like, I don't know. It doesn't really. jive with me very well.
I think there's definitely a piece that you kind of just have to like suspend your disbelief,
Yeah.
that all of this clicks. And I feel like at the end he's kind of purposefully
Okay.
dying.
That's kind of what I was just gonna ask.
I'm pretty sure he intends to die at the end to save everybody else from
Okay.
what happens if he doesn't. And, you know, it's very interesting because we're going to be talking about the butterfly effect. And there's an alternate ending to that movie that is
Yeah.
very similar.
I was gonna say we'll get to that when we get to
Yeah.
it.
Also, I did not click that that was Noah Wiley at all watching this movie. And it's really funny because I'm in the middle of watching an episode of The Pit. So I just
Hmm.
like see him with his beard and everything.
Yeah.
Um, but no, there's a lot of character. I mean, there's a lot of actors in this movie. You get like Seth Rogen being one of the bullies and
Oh
everything
yeah,
too.
that's a given right there.
But I think this is still, I think it's a really interesting film. And
Yeah.
I'm really impressed that like this was the first big effort for Richard Kelly jumping into this. And
Hmm.
I'm also surprised they got so many actors to be in this movie, to be perfectly honest. And I know this bombed because this came out at like the worst possible time to be about a plane accident, seeing as this came out like a
Oh
month
yeah,
after
that
nine
this did
11.
come out. Yeah. I didn't even put that
So
together. I thought this was I when you said early aughts or a little bit ago, I was like, early aughts. This came out in the early aughts. It feels like a 90s film.
it definitely has 90s vibes, but then also very 80s vibes
Yeah,
because of
well,
the
that's
music,
what I was thinking too, is like all the 80s music that's in
because it
it.
takes place in the late 80s.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because the reason I can pinpoint when this takes place is because of the whole political argument between George H.W. Bush and Dukakis, because that was
Got it.
88.
Yeah.
Yup. See, threading in political campaigns for figuring out your time period. If you couldn't tell from the like obscenely 80s needle drops. But to be fair, um Marty Supreme had just obnoxiously 80s needle drops. That certainly didn't take place in the 80s. So they actually have shockingly similar vibes to the soundtracks, which is really interesting. But I guess, Jeff, was there anything else that you wanted to point out or talk about from the film?
I only other thing, it's not even a big thing, but I'll just mention it real quick, is I for some happenstance reason I watched the director's cut of this time
Okay.
around. And I think the director's cut is kind of worse.
Sometimes it's better that some
Yeah.
films,
It's not like that much worse. It's maybe just like a percentage worse. But
mm,
like it's got like these weird like interlude sequences of like reading like text that's being like out of a book that's in the movie. And then like
interesting.
the only other thing that really does better with it is that it gives more um there's more scenes with Donnie and his dad that
Mm.
makes like the dad kind of seem like a better dude. Not that he was a bad dude before, but it just seems like a more like a more respectable kind of like cool dad type of vibe.
He's definitely like this guy's like a sitcom, like
Yeah,
80s, 90s movie dad,
right.
where it's like this man is not cool and he just does dad things and says dad
Hmm.
stuff. Um, I do think it's interesting the incorporation with like the whole thing with like his therapist and
Yeah,
stuff like that. And this film, I would be very interesting to see a film from the perspective of his parents.
yeah.
And I think that would be it's like you get hints of just how scared his mother is for her child. Because like he's doing weird shit. Like
Hmm.
this is a weird kid. And you know, I wouldn't be surprised if his mother was afraid of what he might do. Because obviously
Yeah.
he winds up committing crimes throughout the whole entire movie,
Hmm.
whether people realize that or not. But and also sleepwalking is very like I used to sleepwalk when I was younger, and my mom had like whole conversations with me when I was sleepwalking.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it's like a strange kind of thing. And this film's a very interesting perspective on like how do parents handle a child they don't understand. And I think that's very interesting element to this. I don't think they dig too deep into because at the end of the day, this isn't really about his parents. It's about Donnie, but
Yeah,
they at least have that kind of layer to it. But I guess if you're ready, Jeff, if we want to shift gears into the butterfly effect.
sure.
So we have Evan Treeborn suffers blackouts during significant events of his life. As he grows up, he finds a way to remember these lost memories in a supernatural way to alter his life by reading his journal. And this is from directors Eric Bress and Jay Mackie Gruber and stars Ashton Kutcher. I remember Ashton Kutcher trying to do more serious stuff, including this. Also starring like Amy Smart. Um, there's also a lot of like familiar faces like Eldon Henson from Mighty Ducks and Ethan Suplee.
Hmm.
But Jeff, what were your general thoughts on the butterfly effect?
So this was my first time watching it.
Okay.
Um, I don't know why it took me so long to get to it. I think it's because like some people like back when it came out like had said like it's not that great or it's kind of weird or whatever, and I just kind of avoided it because of that. Um, but when I watched it for this first time, I actually really enjoyed it. Like not like enjoy. I didn't love. I mean, I didn't
Yeah,
love it. It's not like it's not like a fantastic movie, but it's like it was better than I was expecting it to be. So it kind of made it like even better to me.
I have a similar feeling to the movie In Time that I have
Yeah.
to this that wow, this has a really great premise. And there's just certain things that just do not work about this movie. But
Hmm.
then I still found myself invested enough
Yeah.
in it. So it's a very flawed movie. But it's also
Right.
one of those films that like this is that, you know, pulpy genre flick,
Hmm.
psychological drama, mashing a whole bunch of stuff into. Now, I guess, Jeff, what were some of the things that stood out to you that really worked about the film?
Um, Honestly, Ashton Kutcher was probably like probably one of his better acting roles in my
Mhm.
opinion. I think he was really good in this. He plays the serious role very well.
Yep.
Um, the idea of the time travel is very fascinating to me because he does kind of reach a point where he realizes that he can't go back any further. And that's kind of interesting. And like all these times he can actually go back are kind of limited because it's not like a reset where like he can just go back, keep going back to the same point, like a time loop. He has to pick very specific moments to go back. And then when he realizes that an end, even you as a viewer are like, oh, like he's kind of trapped where he is. Like there's no way out of this anymore. So I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, it's very interesting because how this film, one, this film is very aggressive in its
Hmm.
direction. Like
Yeah.
it's angry, it comes at you. There's big sound effects and sound design elements, things very aggressively propel you through the movie. And it's kind of scary in that way. And I think at times it can be very effective. It also does give off like very like early aughts, mid
Hmm.
aughts kind of feeling of filmmaking. Um, this film feels like a time capsule specifically from like this time of with the actors and the approach to like I recently watched Nausicaa for one of my podcasts and like same idea like that movie just feels like there's a very specific time when this movie was made,
Yeah.
and this had it. I think Ashton Kutcher does a really fine job here. It's so weird. I remember, I think the first time I watched this was in college because a friend of mine, my freshman year, bought the director's cut at Princeton Record Exchange for really cheap, which is this really big record store that's like 10 minutes from Ryder in Princeton. And he's like, we're gonna watch this. And the ending, we'll get to the endings of the theatrical cut and
Yeah.
the director's cut because one of them is completely unhinged. But watching that movie for that time, because like I watched a lot of that 70s show. So like watching Elso trying to like do this
Yeah.
was so weird. And I think there's some performances that aren't consistently the strongest
Hmm.
in the film, and I think that kind of takes things away at times. I think some of the alternate timelines work better than others. Like there's some really distracting pieces to some of them. Like I don't know
Yeah.
about you, and I don't know if you recognized him, but I recognized Kevin Durand immediately. And
Oh,
the fact that he was
100%.
playing a character named Carlos, and they made him look like he's Latino, and I'm like, well, this was 2004 for sure. And like the some of them, the ideas really like him getting stuck in prison's an interesting idea. I don't know
Yeah.
how I felt about that sequence of the movie or not, but there's some of them that did really hit emotionally, like when he goes to find her for the first
Yeah.
time. And like I found myself wanting him to be with Kaylee and for that to work out, just based off of like narratively and all the things that they both had been through. And, at least the film got me invested in that.
Yeah.
Um, the running occurrence of Ethan Suplee just being his very large, very goth roommate in college was such an interesting little layer here, very 2004. Um, some of the moments were really shocking, like the when he's like a frat bro and
Yeah.
the brother shows up and how that plays out. I was like, holy shit. I did not like it's like I remembered some of the stuff that happened in this movie. I didn't remember all of it. But like this is dark. This goes to
Yeah.
some dark places. And looking at you, what oh, I didn't even realize that was Logan Lerman played the younger version of Evan.
You
Eric
know what? I didn't realize it was him either because it doesn't really look like him.
hmm, Eric Stoltz,
Yeah.
Haley's
Eric Stoltz,
dad,
weird role for him.
piece of crap.
Yeah.
And
Also, something I noticed, the young Kaylee is young Margot Tenenbaum in the Royal Tenenbaums.
there's a lot of like young kids that wound up becoming famous in this movie,
Yeah.
to be honest. And, you know, that one timeline where, you know, Haley winds up dying
Hmm.
from like the fireworks, and that's the one where he gets institutionalized, right?
Yeah.
I'm just like, some of these I'm like, holy, this movie is just like going really intense and hard at
Yeah.
times. I I give this film credit for the reckless abandon that it takes, being like, oh, we're gonna push your buttons. with some of the stuff that happens in this movie.
I think it would have been kind of cool to see more of like, because wasn't part of the movie saying that like his father had the same affliction?
Yes.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen more of that, like his father kind of maybe him kind of going back to that moment a couple times and like trying to talk to his dad or something.
I think that was an undercooked
Yeah,
element of the movie. I don't think they took as much advantage of that as they probably could have.
I think they
Um,
could have.
it's like there that would have been interesting if they fleshed that out a little bit
Yeah.
more. But, you know, like I mentioned, like I don't think this is a great film. I don't think this is a perfect film. There's a lot of clunkiness to things, but like this there's something that's really interesting about this movie. And so the theatrical ending to this is he goes way back and teases Kaylee so that she never wants to go
Yeah.
near him again. And which I think one of the things that I liked least about this movie is that the moral of the story was it's his fault. Like him being in
Yeah.
her life ruined her life. And I'm like, I don't I don't like that message. And that was a hard message for me to swallow at the end. I'm like, that's pretty messed up to put on
Hmm.
somebody. It's not he's a kid. Like it's not his fault. Like
Well, if you think that's messed up, I have a director's cut ending to show you.
which yes, the director's cut ending is he goes back into the womb and strangles himself with his umbilical cord. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And like,
So I should say the director's cut ending is the one that I watched,
okay,
and I didn't know it was the director's cut ending. I thought it was just the ending.
oh my,
Because the way that I watched it, I didn't watch it on like a streaming service. I watched it on just like this random like not a torrent thing, but like just like this
yeah,
downloadable thing. So but it didn't say, hey, this is the director's cut. So I thought it was just the ending, like
that's
the way it happened. So when I watched it and I was like, oh yeah, people were kind of right. It is kind of a weird movie and everything. And so I didn't find out that was the director's cut until like 2 days ago.
there you go.
And so then
Which
yesterday and today I was looking into the theatrical ending and I found out that there's two other endings. Yeah. If you go on IMDb and you search the like the directors and what they've directed, it says that there's like two other endings. And I can tell you what they are. They're not big spoilers or anything. They're basically just variations of the original ending. One
okay,
of them is one of them is like because the original ending is he kind of like sees her on the streets and they like kind of
yeah,
think they see each other, but then they like look away just after they like just after each other, and then they both walk away or something. But then the two other endings are one of them is basically like they both see each other and look and come up to each other and talk to each other and like it's like hi happy how are you and then the other one is they look at each they're like she walks back she walks past him he looks after her he like turns back and then starts following her and then that's it.
I honestly like both of those endings better than the actual ending because like I think to balance out the very cruel
Yeah.
message of like this is all your fault that maybe someday they could connect.
Yeah.
I appreciate that more. But like I did not remember the original ending because how could I remember that over baby strangling
Oh
himself
yeah.
with umbilical cord? I'm like, that was a wild ending and they should have went with it.
I
Like
agree. I like that ending more than the other endings.
this movie is already unhinged. Like, why pull out the stops then? Like,
Yeah.
that was definitely a studio note. They're like, oh,
100%.
there's no way we're releasing this movie this way. And so, like, specifically compared to Donnie Darko, That's the Donnie Darko ending, going back and killing yourself so
Yeah,
that nobody else will suffer. Except this one takes it to the extreme, going back into the womb, which this is a wild movie. This is one of those things where it's just like I would watch this again out of just like I'm just impressed by how crazy this movie is.
yeah,
And I'm glad it exists. This comes from a very specific time in
yeah,
movie making at that time where it's just like this feels like one of those movies that somebody wrote by just being like, it'd be really cool and crazy. And then you just keep writing cool and crazy things. Does it all have to make sense? No. Will it shock people? Yes. And that's the vibe this movie gives off.
yeah. It's a very interesting movie. I'll kind of just leave it at that. I did like it, and I liked everything that I saw in it. I like something that is a little messed up, kind of makes me think, especially, and I love anything time travel related. I'll watch
Yep,
anything time travel related. So I overall I
absolutely.
had a good experience with it.
Me too. We will leave it at this is certainly an interesting movie. These are both certainly very interesting movies. This is an interesting movie duo. But Jeff, thank you so much as always for coming on and chat movies with me.
Yeah, of course.
And next week I'll be joined by my wife, Jess, as we talk about a couple of Tony Collette's early Australian films, Muriel's Wedding and Coetzee. And then next month, Jeff and I will be diving into a couple of Denis Villeneuve films with Prisoners and Enemy. But thank all of you for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. What's that early aughts movie that you love going back to that just absolutely captures this specific period in time? And did it star Ashton Kutcher? Because let's not forget, we also had Dude, Where's My Car? That came out at that time, which is like quintessential early aughts comedy. But make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. The SPDM Crew Podcasting Network is ever expanding. We have so many different shows with all different types of interests. If you're interested in joining one of the shows like this, or you have an idea for your own podcast, reach out to us on our website. And if you like our logo, check out High Flyer Creative for all your digital marketing needs. But most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.